Welcome to the deep dive. You look around at the world we've built. It's pretty incredible. Skyscrapers, electricity, global supply chains, complex language itself.
Yes, staggering achievement.
Right. And when you see all that system, that organization, well, you just assume rationality is like our defining trait.
That's the big illusion, isn't it? I mean, we build these systems that are pure logic, like engineering or computer code. But behavioral science keeps finding that the individual human mind, well, the source material calls it, infested with preconceived notions and patterns of thought that lead it astray.
Infested. That's a strong word.
It is. And we've gone through the sources. They list something like 48 ways our brains mess up. So our mission today really is to get why smart people like you listening, sometimes make just the dumbest decisions.
You mean like getting fat, going broke, that kind of stuff?
Exactly. Or freezing up when a real crisis hits. Things that seem irrational.
Okay, let's dive right in then. We've got a logic test that apparently trips up almost everyone. It shows this isn't about raw intelligence, it's more about our wiring.
Ah, the Wason selection task. Classic.
That's the one. Okay, imagine 4 cards on a table. One side's a number, the other's a color, you see. A 3, an 8, a red card, and a brown card.
Okay, got it. 3, 8, red, brown.
And here's the rule you need to test. If a card has an even number on one side, then it must be red on the opposite side.
Okay. If even, then red.
So the question for you listening is, which card or cards do you absolutely have to flip over to prove if that rule is true or false?
Take a second. Think about it. Which ones must you turn over?
If you're like, what, 90% of people? That's what Peter Wasson found?
Yeah, it's a vast majority.
You probably want to flip the 8, right? To check it's red.
Makes sense. Confirm the rule.
And maybe the red card to check if it has an even number on the back.
That's the common combination, the 8 and the red card. But focusing on confirming, that's the trap.
So that's not right.
Nope. Less than 10% get this. The correct answer is you need to flip the 8 card and the brown card.
Okay, wait, the 8 I get. If you flip the 8 and it's, say, blue.
Rule broken. Instantly. That part's intuitive.
But why the brown card? Why not the red one?
Well, think about the red card. If you flip it and it's a 3,
Yeah.
does that break the rule?
No. The rule only says even numbers must be red. It doesn't say odd numbers can't be red.
Exactly. The rule doesn't claim only even numbers are red. A 3 could be red, a 7 could be red, doesn't matter. So flipping the red card tells you nothing useful about this rule.
Okay. But the brown one?
You have to pick the brown card. Because what if it has an even number on the back? Like a 4.
Then you'd have an even number that's not red.
And the rule is immediately violated. See? We fail because we're so focused on looking for evidence that proves the rule right, we forget to look for the evidence that could prove it wrong.
That desire to be right. It's powerful.
It really is. We want confirmation, not falsification, even in a simple logic puzzle.
So this isn't just about card tricks. This fundamental urge to confirm our beliefs, to see ourselves positively, how much does that mess with our actual, daily lives?
Oh, it's everywhere. It leads right into this idea of the illusion of self-knowledge. Basically, you are a story that you tell yourself about yourself.
Right, we're all kind of the main character in our own narrative.
Exactly. But the question is, how much of that story is actually accurate? How much is just filled in?
This is where confabulation comes in, right? And those split-brain patient studies get really weird.
Extremely weird, but incredibly insightful. So surgeons sometimes cut the corpus callosum, that big bundle of nerves connecting the 2 brain hemispheres, usually for severe epilepsy.
Right, separates the 2 halves.
And this creates a kind of natural experiment. Researchers could show an image, or a word like truck, just to the right hemisphere, the one that typically doesn't handle language.
Okay. So the language side doesn't see it.
Correct. So if you ask the patient, what did you see? The left hemisphere, the language center, honestly answers, I didn't see anything.
Makes sense. It didn't see it.
But then you ask the patient to draw what they saw, but using their left hand.
Which is controlled by the right hemisphere, the one that did see the truck.
Precisely. And they'll easily draw a picture of a truck.
Okay, still following.
Now here's the kicker. The researcher asks, why did you draw that? Remember, the left hemisphere, the one talking, didn't see the truck and doesn't know why the left hand drew it.
So what does it say?
It doesn't say, I don't know. It instantly invents a plausible story. It confabulates. It might say, I'm thinking about getting a new truck, or that reminds me of my uncle's truck. It creates a narrative fantasy, a reason that makes sense of the action, even though it's completely fabricated post hoc.
Wow. So the brain just hates a vacuum. It has to have a reason, even if it makes one up.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
Our conscious awareness often gets the result, the feeling, the action,
Yeah.
but not the real process behind it.
That feels unsettling because it links right into the introspection illusion that happens to all of us every day, not just split brain patients.
Absolutely. There's that great quote, "It is the result of thinking, not the process of thinking, that appears spontaneously in consciousness." We get the final thought, not the messy backstage work.
Like those jam experiments.
Exactly. People would paste different jams and rank them. Fine. But then in other studies, researchers used a kind of sleight of hand to make people think they'd chosen, say, a photo of a person they actually hadn't.
Okay.
And when asked why they preferred that photo, did they say, I don't remember choosing this?
No, I bet they made something up.
They absolutely did. They'd dutifully spin a yarn, as
Yeah.
the source puts it. They'd come up with detailed, specific reasons for their preference, genuinely believing those were the reasons, even though their choice was basically manipulated.
Yeah.
We are masters at making up reasons after the fact.
Okay, so if we can't even fully trust our own internal reasoning, what happens when we look outwards at the world?
Well, we start seeing connections and meaning where maybe there isn't any, which brings us nicely to the Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
Ah, okay. What's that one?
It's basically ignoring the role of random chance when results seem meaningful, or, maybe more importantly, when we want them to be meaningful. We find clusters in randomness and then pretend they were the target all along.
We impose order on chaos retroactively.
You got it. Painting the bullseye after the shots have landed.
And the examples for this are always so compelling, like the Lincoln-Kennedy similarities.
Oh, yeah, those are spooky.
Right. Both elected 100 years apart, Lincoln in 1860, Kennedy in 1960, both assassinated on a Friday, both shot in the head.
Both their assassins had 3 names. John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald, 15 letters total.
And Booth ran from a theater and was caught in a warehouse. Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater.
And both were succeeded by a vice president named Johnson, Andrew, and Lyndon, born 100 years apart, 1808 and 1908.
When you list it like that, it feels like something more than coincidence is going on. It feels like destiny or something.
It really does. Or take the other big example, the novel Futility.
Written way back in 1898, right?
Yeah, 14 years before the Titanic sank. And this fictional ship, it was called the Titan,
Okay. Close.
called unsinkable, largest ship ever built, didn't have enough lifeboats.
Wait, really?
Yep. And strikes an iceberg and sinks in the North Atlantic in April.
That's uncanny. It seems almost like a prophecy.
It absolutely feels
Yeah.
that way. And it's incredibly tempting to see these patterns as deeply meaningful.
But that's the fallacy, right? We're just focusing on the hits, the similarities.
That is the entire trick.
Yeah.
The Texas sharpshooter fallacy works
Mm.
because we ignore all the misses, all the differences.
So for Lincoln and Kennedy, what are we ignoring?
We ignore that Lincoln was shot in a theater, Kennedy in a car, different weapons. Lincoln died hours later, Kennedy almost instantly. Different religious backgrounds, different political contexts, dozens and dozens of differences in their lives and presidencies.
We just cherry pick the matches.
Exactly. And for the Titan and the Titanic.
What's different there?
Well, the fictional Titans also had sails. It sank almost immediately after hitting the iceberg, much faster than Titanic. And it only had 13 survivors versus over 700 for the Titanic. Huge differences.
Right. So when you look at the whole picture, not just the highlighted bits.
The seemingly meaningful pattern dissolves back into, well, coincidence and randomness. The fallacy gets its name, as you might guess, from that cowboy.
And one shooting at the barn.
Yeah, the imaginary one who just fires randomly at a barn wall. Then after he's finished shooting, he walks up, finds the tightest cluster of bullet holes, and draws a bullseye around it.
Making it look like he was an amazing shot.
Presto. Creating order from chance. We do it all the time to find comfort, maybe assign blame, or just avoid facing what the source calls the messy slog of chaos, disorder, and random chance.
Okay, let's shift from these cognitive biases, these thinking errors, to something more like self-sabotage. Let's talk about procrastination.
Ah, yes. The bane of many existences.
We usually just call it laziness, don't we? But the material suggests it's more like a failure to think about thinking, a weakness in the face of impulse.
That's a much better way to frame it. It's not about being lazy. It's often about something called time-inconsistent preferences, or sometimes hyperbolic discounting.
Okay, break that down. Time inconsistent.
It means what you want now is different from what your future self would want you to do now. When you're planning ahead, thinking rationally, You choose the healthy option.
Like tomorrow I'll eat a salad, or I'll definitely go to the gym after work, or watch that serious documentary.
Right. You plan to watch Schindler's List. You know it's important, meaningful. That's your rational planning self.
But then tomorrow comes, or after work arrives.
And suddenly the present self takes over, and the present self sees cake or the latest action movie. Something easy and instantly gratifying.
And Schindler's List suddenly feels like way too much effort.
Exactly. The immediate reward, even if it's small or lowbrow, feels hugely valuable right now. While the future benefit, like feeling good after the gym or having seen the important film, seems distant and less compelling, that reward loses value sharply the further away it is. That's the hyperbolic discounting part.
So is that why offering someone $50 today versus $100 in a year, most people take the $50 now?
That's a classic example. The immediate $50 feels better than waiting a whole year for double. But here's the twist.
Yeah.
If you offer them $50 in 5 years or $100 in 6 years, suddenly most people will wait the extra year for the extra $50.
Huh. Why the change?
Because the initial delay is already long. 5 years, 6 years, what's one more year at that point? The hyperbolic sharp drop-off in value only really happens when the reward is immediate or very close.
Interesting. And this connects to the marshmallow test, doesn't it, with the kids?
Absolutely. The kids who could resist eating the marshmallow right away for the promise of 2 later, they weren't necessarily smarter in terms of IQ.
So what was the difference?
They were better at metacognition, thinking about their own thinking. They understood how to trick themselves.
Wow.
They could cover their eyes or turn around or invent a little game to distract themselves. They had strategies to manage their present self's impulses. And that ability to delay gratification correlated with higher SAT scores years later.
So the big takeaway for procrastination isn't just try harder.
No, not at all. It's realizing that the want for the immediate thing, the cake or the easy option, it basically never goes away. Your future self is always going to be tempted.
So you have to plan for that weakness.
You got it. You have to create structures now, like literally putting the cookies on a high shelf or pre-committing to meet someone at the gym or using website blockers to make it harder for your future self to give in to that immediate impulse. You have to manage the future you.
Okay, managing future you. That makes sense. Now, let's end with a really serious failure of action, one that happens in emergencies. Normalcy bias.
Right. This one is crucial. It's sometimes called negative panic.
Negative panic, meaning not panicking enough.
Exactly. It's a tendency to see strange, alarming situations and just interpret them as if they're normal, as business as usual, which leads to deadly inaction.
That seems so counterintuitive. Wouldn't danger trigger immediate flight or fight?
You'd think so, but often denial seems to be a preferred first response. Look at the examples from the sources. The F5 tornado in Oklahoma, 1999.
Okay.
Warnings went out a full 13 minutes ahead of time. That's a long warning for a tornado.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of time.
Yet reports showed that many people just milled around. They didn't immediately seek shelter. And tragically, 36 people died in that event. That delay, that milling around, was likely normalcy bias.
Just not believing it's really happening or thinking it won't affect them.
Probably a mix of both, trying to fit this terrifying new information into their normal framework. Tornadoes happen elsewhere, perhaps.
Wow. 13 minutes. Loss.
An even starker example, the Tenerife plane crash in 1977, the deadliest one ever.
Right. 2 747s colliding on the runway. Horrific.
After the initial impact, survivors on the Pan Am jet had roughly 1 minute before fire engulfed the plane. 1 minute to get out.
That's incredibly short, but potentially survivable for some?
It was. People did escape. But investigators later concluded that several dozen people who could have escaped, who were physically able to move, simply didn't. They froze. They failed to break free of paralysis.
Sat there.
Survivor accounts describe people sitting calmly, dazed, unresponsive, even as others were yelling to get out. Their minds just couldn't process the catastrophe quickly enough to act.
So the body might survive the impact, but the mind, it locks up. Why?
Psychologically, the idea is that the emergency is just too new, too outside the norm. Your brain doesn't have a ready script for a jumbo jet collision on foggy runway.
It defaults.
It defaults to trying to gather more information, trying to understand, compare the threat to known experiences, verify if it's really that bad. You fall back on routines, looking around, trying to make sense of it.
And wasting those critical seconds.
Exactly. Those seconds are spent processing instead of moving.
Yeah.
It's a failure to recognize the extreme abnormality and react immediately.
Okay. We have covered a lot of ground here today, from our basic logic failing us
Yeah, the Wesson task.
to our brains basically making up stories to explain ourselves.
Confabulation,
Yeah.
the narrative machine,
Then seeing patterns and randomness,
the Texas sharpshooter,
struggling with that cake versus the gym,
procrastination and hyperbolic discounting,
and finally freezing up when disaster strikes.
normalcy bias. It's quite the list of ways our minds can lead us astray.
It really paints a picture of, well, not the purely rational creature we sometimes imagine ourselves to be.
Not at all. It all points back to this core conflict, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have this conscious executive part of our brain that we think is in charge.
Our rational self.
Right. But underneath, there are all these unconscious forces, priming, heuristics, biases, constantly whispering suggestions, pushing us in certain directions, often directions that aren't logical or helpful.
And we tend to think this stuff affects other people more than ourselves, right? Like advertising or propaganda.
Oh, absolutely. That's called the third-person effect. We readily believe that other people might be easily swayed by, say, a political ad or a flashy commercial. But us, no, we see through it. We're immune.
We exempt ourselves.
We almost always exempt ourselves. We underestimate how much these hidden biases and cognitive shortcuts influence our own thoughts and decisions.
Okay, so here's maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, pulling some threads together. Kahneman talks about the experiencing self living life moment to moment, and the remembering self that makes big decisions based on the memories it wants to collect.
Right. The remembering self is kind of the storyteller, the one building the narrative of your life based on peaks and ends of experiences.
So if that remembering self is constantly trying to steer your current self towards creating new positive memories, how do you make sure the moments you're actually choosing to create today are the ones your future remembering self will genuinely value, especially knowing how much we confabulate and misjudge?
That's a really deep question. How do you align the fleeting present with the narrative you hope to build, knowing the narrator is unreliable?
Yeah, maybe the answer is just stay skeptical, especially of your own certainty.
I think that's wise advice.
Yeah.
Question your gut feelings, challenge your assumptions, and maybe, just maybe, flip over that brown card once in a while.